If you're doing your first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, this video is going to teach you the exact process from the time you register, from the time you have your celebratory meal at the end. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find the event that you want to register for. So there's many softwares, or you could do online search and you can find the tournament near you that makes sense for your schedule. I highly recommend when you sign up for your first tournament to put that tournament about 2 months to 3 months out from the current day. Now, that gives you plenty of time to start to prepare for the tournament and to help you train a little different than you would normally train on an average basis. For example, when you get ready for a tournament, there's weight classes. So you might, in the process, want to lose a few pounds, sign up for the weight class that's below kind of where you're at. Maybe in the process of doing the tournament, it helps you to lose a little bit of weight, to get in better shape. 2 or 3 months should be plenty of time for you to, up your cardio a little bit and to focus your training, because when you do a tournament, you want to focus your training a little different because there's rule sets. You want to become a little more strategic, a little more aggressive, because when you do a tournament, it's a lot more aggressive and the intensity opposed to your normal everyday training. So I highly recommend choose a tournament at least 3 months ahead of time, 2 months minimum. 3 months is a good area. This will, when you sign up, make sure you understand the weight class. Now, when you sign up for the weight class, the weigh-ins are different for every tournament. Some tournaments you can weigh in the day before, and that'll allow you, you can eat light and drink less water, maybe even sweat out a pound or two, and then you can weigh in the day before, and you have 24 hours or so to eat, drink, hydrate, and get yourself back to normal. The other common way is you can weigh in the morning of. So maybe you compete in the afternoon, you can show up to the tournament at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., weigh in, and then you can go get breakfast and have a nice meal, and then you can come back. And some tournaments you have to weigh in directly before your first fight and before your first match. Now, every tournament's a little different. If you're competing with the gi, some tournaments that you have to weigh in right before your first match, you have to weigh in with your gi on. So you have to take that into consideration when signing up for a weight class. Like for myself, I compete at the middleweight division, which is 181.5 with the uniform. So for me, I need to be around 177 to comfortably be able to weigh in right before my first match, because my gi weighs 3.5 pounds. So 177, that ends up being 180.5. That gives me 1 pound to play with, which I always try to give myself at least 1 pound to play with, because I want to hydrate. I don't want to be no energy at all. So I want to have at least a little bit of sugar in me, hydrate, be able to eat a little breakfast or dinner depending on how close I am to my weight. So the weight class is, if you weigh in the morning of and you're doing the gi division, oftentimes they let you weigh in with just your underwear. So that's different, right? So if you're 181 and you get to weigh in the morning of with just, your underwear or street clothes on, that gives you a lot more wiggle room. So if that was the case for the 181 division, then I could just get there in the morning, weigh in 181, and then with my gi on and after having breakfast, I might be 186. So make sure when you sign up, you're signing up for the correct weight class, and you don't want to sign up and have to lose 10 pounds in 3 months. So you want to, 5 pounds is probably the most that I would recommend. And for tournaments, the weight cutting is not that important, to be 100% honest, but if it is your goal to lose a few pounds, to get in shape, along with competing and testing yourself and showing what you're made of, then it might be a great way to motivate. That's what I love about jiu-jitsu tournaments is, not just the day of, where you learn a lot of lessons with your technique and your strategy and implementing it on game time, but the process leading up to the tournament, I feel, is really, really important, because it keeps us motivated. We have a goal in mind. 3 months from now, I have a goal to do this tournament. I want to lose 5 pounds. I want to get in shape so that I can perform at my best. And those 3 months leading up to the tournament is more important than the tournament day itself, because that goal setting and that date set on your calendar, circled, that gets you in the gym with training with purpose and intention. So I think everybody should compete at least once. Maybe I think everyone should compete at least once at each belt level. I don't think tournament is the most important thing for people to improve in jiu-jitsu. It's not necessary. However, I feel that it's a great tool and a great way to improve, and I've always used it in my strategies and to get better and in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu journey, and I continue to compete to this day because of all the benefits. It helps expose my technique weaknesses. It helps me with my mental strength. Because when you go to a tournament, you deal with a lot of feelings and emotions, and how do we deal with that emotionally and mentally? And if it's your first tournament, be prepared. Everyone reacts differently. On my first tournament, I wasn't nervous at all, but I see a lot of people on their very, very first tournament that they get anxious and they get scared. So this is normal. It's very, very normal. The chances are the person that you're competing with is just as scared or nervous as you are. So we'll get more into that in a little bit. So you signed up for your tournament, you know what weight class you're gonna be, you know the weight categories, also understand the rules. Every tournament, the rule sets are a little different. The most common rule sets is the IBJJF rule set. So you should know because maybe in your gym you guys are doing leg locks, you guys are doing cervical locks, you guys are doing wrist locks and all these things, but then you're a white belt going into a IBJJF tournament, and if you don't research the rules, you might do a submission or position that's not allowed and you get disqualified, and that's terrible. So do your best to understand the rules. If you have any questions about this, you should talk to your professor. And that's a good point. Like, before you sign up for a tournament, you should communicate with your professor and say, hey, I'm gonna do this tournament 3 months ahead of time. I'm researching the rules, I'm researching the weight class. Do you think this is the correct weight class for me? Do you think this is the correct age category for me, or the correct category for me? Because every tournament goes by experience level, usually belt color, age category, weight category, and gender. So discuss with your professor, to your coach, and make sure you're in the correct category. And then once they know, they can help you prepare for the tournament, whether it's turning the intensity up a little bit during the training, making sure that you're going with partners that's going to challenge you and prepare you. Also, they can help you with the rule sets, because maybe you don't understand what reaping is, or what a twisting knee bar is. Like, you should know what's allowed and what's not, and that way when you go into the tournament, the chances of you doing an illegal technique are going to be lower. You also want to know because there's a point system for most tournaments. Some are submission only, but if it's your first tournament, I'm assuming you're a lower belt, white belt or blue belt in most cases, and those tournaments are not as usual to be submission only. So when you show up, you know the point system, all right? Every point system, every tournament, sometimes the point system are different, but once again, the most common point system is the IBJJF, because when you go to a tournament, you wanna know how you're gonna score points, or how the person can score points against you, and that way you can be prepared to fight that strategy as well. For example, takedowns are usually 2 points, pass the guards usually 3, taking the back or mount usually 4, and the points only come into play if the time is over and there's no submission. Whoever has the most points win. And I feel that most matches go to points opposed to a submission. So it's great. You should know how the point system works. That way in the match, you can understand the strategy behind that. And if you're winning by points, you might have a different approach in the match. If I'm winning, 2-0 and I have 1 minute left, I might not take as much risks, opposed to if I'm winning 10-0 and I have 1 minute left, I could take a risk, because now if I make a mistake and the person scores some points on me, it's fine, because I have a lot more wiggle room. And then if they start catching up, like it's 10-2, 10-6, 10-8, okay, now I gotta close my game up and be a lot more strategic. So the points are really, really important. So not only knowledge of the structure of the tournament, but also the training up into the tournament, communicating with your training partners and your coach, and going to the correct classes, getting in shape and having the right weight class. So those are the things that are leading up to the tournament. Knowing the rules, being in the right weight class, communicating with your training partners. Now, when you show up for the tournament, here's what I normally do is there's usually a software that is connected to the tournament, and that software will tell you, what is your bracket, how many people are in your division, who are you going against. They'll tell you oftentimes like what time you're scheduled to go. And these times they tend to change. So if it says you're gonna go at 10 a.m., be expected, they might go earlier or might go later, usually a little later, that's the most common. But they'll also tell you most of the time what mat you're gonna be on. So at a tournament, there's usually multiple mats, anywhere from 4 to like 16 different mats, okay? So if you know what mat you are gonna go on, let's say mat 2, and you know what time you're scheduled to go, let's say mat 4, and you have 6 people in your division and you're the first match in that group, so you can already start planning, okay, what time should I be there? Let's just say you can weigh in early. So you get there as soon as the doors open, 8 a.m., you weigh in, and then you go get some breakfast, go get a coffee, go to Starbucks or whatever it is, but your match is at 10 a.m. I recommend to get there at least, at minimum, 1 hour before your first match. And now, when you get to these tournaments, there's usually a scale that you can check your weight on, because when you weigh in for the tournament, whether it's right before your match or in the morning of, they only give you usually one chance to weigh in, and if you're over, you're automatically disqualified. But there's almost always a practice scale. So if I know that I'm a little close on my weight, I'll get there early and check my weight on the scale, with or without my gi, depending on the rule set, and then I'm like, okay, I am 3 pounds under, I can eat a little bit, drink a little bit, or if I'm 1 pound over, I have to figure out, okay, I need to lose a little bit of weight, so I can't eat, I can't drink. Hopefully, if I get there early enough and I notice that I'm 1 pound over, if I have 4 hours, the chances that I'll probably lose 1 pound in 4 hours, as long as I'm not eating and not drinking. So get there early. I would say minimum 1 hour before. Check your weight, make sure your weight's on, with the gi or without the gi, depending on how the weigh-ins work. And then start warming up 1 hour early. Now, warming up is different for everybody. Usually what I do is I like to do certain stretches and certain mobility. I start 1 hour before my scheduled time. I don't like to overexert myself, because if you work out and you warm up too much, and then your match doesn't go for a long time and you kind of like overexert yourself, then I might not be primed. So I like to do a light warm up, continuously stretching, maybe doing some calisthenics to kind of prime my body up. Now, this is something that you'll have to experiment with, and it depends on the type of tournament it is. If I know exactly what time I'm going and I have a nice warm-up area and I have a training partner, I'll actually roll like 30 minutes before my match. I'll roll maybe 5 or 10 minutes of like just light sparring, and that gives my body, wakes my body up. And then about 10 minutes before my match, I cool down, I stretch, and now my body is warm, but I'm not revving up too high with my heart rate. I let my heart rate come down. So make sure you get there at least an hour early and warm up. Do whatever that takes. It's stretching, jumping jacks, push-ups, mobility, whatever it takes for you to get your body, because you definitely want to sweat, at least a light sweat before your first match. Because the first match, the adrenaline dump is real. And if you are going in there totally cold, your body is going to be can be more tired. Okay, so make sure you get a light sweat. Then they're going to call your name. You're in the waiting area. When you get to the tournament, right? When you get to the tournament, the first thing you do is you check in. There's usually a check-in booth. Then after you check in, they know that you're there. You check your weight and make sure you're perfect. Do any adjustments you need to do. and then you start warming up an hour before. Oh, and even before the warm-up, what I love to do is I know what mat I'm gonna be on. So let's say I'm gonna be on mat 4, like I mentioned. I'll go to that mat and I'll start practicing some visualization. I'm like, hey, I'm mat 4, this is what the mat looks like, this is what the mat feels like. I can imagine myself being at the edge of the mat, being ready to be called, and that kind of puts me in the space that I'm gonna be at, because usually the most nervous spot is when you're in the next match and you're on the outside of that mat waiting for the referee to call you in. That tends to be the most nervousness time. So what I do is I envision myself in that moment on that mat. There it is. I can see the mat. I'm gonna be on that mat and I'm gonna be standing right there. And if I can live that moment multiple times in my mind, then when I get there, it's less nerve-wracking. So I like to do that before I warm up. Almost as soon as I get there, I check in. I feel the vibe of the venue. What, you know, maybe I put my stuff in the bleachers, and then I find my teammates. I go to the mat, I soak it up, okay? Then I hang out and wait for an hour before my match. I go warm up, and then while you're warming up, eventually, when it's time to go, the coordinators of that tournament are gonna call you and your partners, or you and your opponents, and then they're gonna call you to your mat. And at that point, you're gonna, if you haven't done so already, you're probably gonna weigh in. They might check your gi, so make sure you understand the uniform requirements. Okay, this is really important, as well as like the weight classes and all these things, the rules. There are uniform requirements for a lot of these tournaments, and if you don't have the right uniform or the right color or the right size, then you can get disqualified and not be able to compete. And we've all been there, people that have competed before. You get to the tournament, you're ready to go, they call you up, and then your gi is too small, or it's the wrong color, or one of your patches is not sewed correctly and you can't compete with that gi. So I usually like to bring multiple gis, like 2 gis, just in case one of them, for some reason, like one time I was warming up and my gi got really wet because I was sweating a lot. And when I showed up to check my gi, it was too wet and they told me I couldn't compete in it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to scramble around the venue to find someone that let me borrow their gi. So, or your belt is too short, or your belt is too torn up and they won't let you compete. Now I gotta run around and find a belt from a friend or a stranger. So I've been there where I've had to either purchase a gi or a uniform at the tournament, or I've had to borrow some from people. And when you're going for your first match and all of a sudden last minute I have to grab a new gi or buy a belt or scramble around the whole tournament to find someone that will loan me their gi that I could wear, it's extremely nerve-wracking and takes you out of focus. When you should be focusing on your match, now you're focusing on your uniform. So try it, and even with a no gi, there's often many things that, like, okay, maybe the color is not allowed. You have to have a certain color, or you can't be competing with pockets or metallic knee brace, right? So there's all these things that kind of go into it. And if you show up with a metallic knee brace, with regular shorts with pocket, and a loose fitting t-shirt, they're gonna look at you and say, like, you cannot compete with that. You have to wear a rash guard, and it might have to be a specific color depending on your belt level or the tournament. You have to wear shorts with no pockets, and you can't wear that knee brace. You have to tape it up, or you have to, so be prepared. You don't want to be checking in for your first match and all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, what you're wearing doesn't work, and now you might be disqualified as you can't fix this in the next 10, 15 minutes. Okay, so be prepared for that. Then they're gonna call you to your match area, and chances are you're gonna wait a little bit. Sometimes you go right to your first match, and that can happen, so be prepared for that. It's not as common. Most likely you're gonna go to your mat area, and then they're gonna be a couple of matches ahead of you, so you're gonna be waiting. All right, this is your time to get your last minute warm-ups, to get the nerves out, because you're probably gonna be feeling pretty nervous, right? And so you're gonna have to, like, I don't know how you're gonna be feeling. I have mental strategies and mental cues that I use in these moments that help me stay focused and task-oriented. But, you know, just go in there. I would recommend just be ready that you're gonna have some nervousness and you're gonna feel anxious or scared. You might just feel pumped up and ready to go. You're gonna be dealing with some sort of emotions and some sort of mental things going on, and that's normal. Whatever you're going through, it's normal. Just remind yourself that this is normal, this is okay, what I'm feeling is okay, and just kind of make a note of it so that after the tournament you can kind of debrief, and then you can kind of create strategies for next time. So the referee, you're gonna wait on the side of on the mat. The referee is gonna call you in. When the referee calls you in, I like to go to the referee and shake their hand, and then my opponent will shake the referee's hand, then I shake my opponent's hand. And that's kind of shows that you're ready. Wait at the edge of the mat. The referee usually does something like this, says, hey, come on the mat. You go there, shake the referee's hand, shake your opponent's hand, and then the referee is gonna say combate, or fight, or begin. They might give you a debriefing like stay in the middle of the ring, stay in the middle of the match area, keep going until I say stop, right? And then you go, right? And then the tournament, once you start going, usually that's, all the nervousness that happened before the tournament, you're in it now, right? And you're gonna try to implement your strategies that you and your coach have been doing and been working on, and just gonna give it your all. I don't know how you're gonna be feeling in that match. I just recommend try to have a game plan. Like, I want to get to this position. I want to get to the top. And when I'm on top, I want to pass the guard and get to mount. And then just try to implement that game plan. And chances are things are gonna come up that's gonna get in your way, and you're gonna have to improvise and try your best. Listen to your coach or whoever's yelling at you, because they have a different perspective. And sometimes their feedback can help you, and sometimes it doesn't help. So you don't have to listen to it, but just be attuned to that outside coaching while you're in the match, okay? And after the match, there's gonna be a winner. One's gonna get their hand raised, one's not gonna get their hand raised, and you may or may not have another match. Some matches are some tournaments are single elimination, meaning if you win, you keep going. If you lose, you're done. And nowadays, a lot of tournaments, they give you minimum 2 matches, or they do a round robin. So after your first match, you might have another match. So they usually give you minimum like 5 minutes or so. That's like quick turnaround, but usually you have more time than that until your next match. So take that time to recover, take that time to drink some fluids, some electrolytes, take that time to maybe have a small snack like a piece of fruit or some sugar, and to try to catch your breath and calm your body down. After your first match, you're gonna be exhausted, more tired. Chances are you'll be more tired than you've ever been rolling at class. It's a different type of intensity with the emotions, with the spotlight on you, with the person out there going 100% trying to armbar you. You're gonna be exhausted, okay? And when you get off the mat, if you're dead tired, and just the thought of another match is terrifying. I can't even move my arms. How am I gonna go have another match? So I understand your mind's gonna play tricks on you, and there's a chance you're gonna wanna give up and not go for the second match. Listen, when I get to that point, I realize that my body right now is depleted, but as long as I'm refueling it and resting, I'm gonna level back up. Your HP is gonna increase, okay? You're not gonna stay down there forever. Now, it might not get back to where you were before the first match, but trust me, as long as you have enough time, right? And if they tell you gotta go, then ask them, hey, I'm really tired, can I have another 5 minutes? And most of the times they will accommodate you and say, okay, we'll give you another 5 minutes, and just do your best to try to recover as much as possible. And this is where like the emotional regulation and the conditioning comes into play, because if you cannot control your emotions, you're gonna be more tired. Or if you didn't train enough, you're gonna be tired because you don't have the conditioning. So that's something that you can learn for the next tournament. How can I make it better? And now at the end of the tournament, you may or may not have qualified for a medal, but once your matches are done, there's usually a table next to your mat, and go to that table and say, hey, do I have any more matches? And if they say yes, then stick around. If not, you go to the podium. And when you go to the podium, there's a podium area where you get your medal, you go on top of the podium, first, second, or third place, take a group photo, support your teammates, right? The tournament's not over. Hang out, get an acai. I like to have, if there's acai every tournament, I at least get an acai. It's kind of a tradition. Or you get a food, you get a snack, you hang out. And this is kind of like the fun part when you have a team. You hang out, you watch your teammates, you support them. You know, maybe there's 3 of you, maybe there's 10 of you doing the tournament. And that's, for me, is like that team bonding. It's really important You know, maybe I won my match, maybe they don't, so I want to support them, or maybe I don't, they do, maybe we all win. Like, you never know, but the most important thing is you're there, you're supporting each other, because doing a tournament is a pretty scary thing. You get out there, you expose yourself, you're vulnerable, everything is on the line when it comes to your jiu-jitsu. You win, you lose, you make mistakes, you capitalize on their mistakes, and you're not there by yourself. Usually you have a teammate, so you have a coach, you have a friend, and support each other. Stick around as long as you can, and then after the tournament, one of my favorite parts is the after tournament celebratory meal. For me, it usually is pizza or cheeseburgers, okay? In-N-Out, Pizza My Heart. I mean, that's for me an after tournament meal. I love to have something like that, go with the team, eat together. Sometimes we'll go for tacos or burritos. Sometimes we'll go for pho or, you know, noodles. But I would say most of the time after a tournament, I love to have pizza or cheeseburgers and french fries, and spend time with the teammates, because this is like those moments that you'll probably remember forever. Your first tournament, the time you spent with your teammates, the companionship and the fellowship after the tournament or during the tournament when you're supporting each other. And then after that, you know, maybe you took videos or your teammate took videos, debrief. You know, for me, I usually don't do it immediately after. I let everything settle. And then after the dust settles, I watch my videos on my phone. I make a bunch of notes. I make a list of notes of things that I've learned or that I could have done better for next time. And I might share, I recommend share these with your coach. Give your video to your coach. Have your coach give you feedback, right? Because then it's such a huge tool that after the tournament, it's not over. You take all these notes, you take all this feedback, either self-feedback or feedback from your coaches, and now you go back to the training lab, you go back to the mats with intention. This guy got me in mount and I couldn't escape because of this. Now I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna start working on my mount escapes. And the lessons that you learn in the tournament, you never forget. There are hard-earned, learned lessons. And that's one of the reasons I feel that jiu-jitsu tournaments become very addicting, because the emotional ride that comes with it and the lessons that you learn afterwards, and you feel improvement. Whether you win or lose, going out there and competing and putting yourself on the line and practicing vulnerability, you improve a lot. So I hope this video helps you when you're getting ready for your very first tournament. From the time you research and click register on the portal to the time you're recapping with your coach on how you can improve and get better. So thank you, and check me out for the next video coming soon.